Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get more than you bargained for. The serpent's promise to Eve came true. However, she didn't understand what the enticing promise of the knowledge of good and evil really meant, and it was never God's intent for her to understand. I'm Dr. Rich Masek, the author of Ideolatry, God is Not Your Problem, and today we will learn about the blame game. The choice that Adam and Eve made led them down a path that destroyed everything that they had. If Eve and Adam had been obedient and trusted in God's counsel, they would never have been faced with the ugly truth, and there was no way to recover the innocence that they lost. They immediately understood that they had done evil because of their rebellious choice of disobedience. For the first time, they knew fear, and their first reaction was to hide from God as they covered themselves. Evil is the antithesis of good, and there seems to be a natural order where good and evil are concerned. Evil is defined in relation to the presence of good, like darkness is defined by the absence of light. Just like darkness flees from the light, evil flees and hides itself from good. Evil waits for an opportunity to deceive and destroy when it thinks that good is not looking. And to avoid having their evil or sin exposed, humans use justification and the deflection of responsibility. But evil cannot stand in God's presence. Evil runs away from God. And this is exactly what Adam and Eve did, as we read in Genesis chapter 3, verses 7 through 10, from the New King James Version. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, "Where are you?" So he said, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself." The man and woman made their own choices. The devil made me do it just doesn't work. Their choices were made under the influence of deception, which happened because of Eve's lack of clear understanding of God's Word. But the free will choices were still theirs. They received exactly what the deception of the serpent had promised. But just like any deception or con, they didn't receive what they thought they would. This principle is described in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. After Adam and Eve hid themselves, God began to confront their sin as he inquired their whereabouts. Adam said that he hid himself because he was naked and ashamed. Pay particular attention to the fact that Adam had chosen to hide from God. He tried to separate himself from God. This is exactly what evil and sin do best. They drive a wedge between you and God. But God still reached out to Adam even after he had sinned, as we read in Genesis chapter 3, verse 11, from the New King James Version. And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" Notice that God did not address Eve with this question about the tree, even though Eve was the first to eat of the forbidden tree. God spoke directly to Adam. This is because God gave the instructions to Adam, and Adam was accountable for them. But Adam didn't want that responsibility. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 12, we see that the blame game began as Adam pointed the finger of fault directly at his mate, Eve. Then the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." Adam refused to accept responsibility for his action, as he deflected his accountability onto Eve. But that wasn't the end of the blame game. There was still plenty of blame to go around. I invite you to read Ideolatry and delve deeper into this dilemma and how God deals with the players. And please join me for the next episode, The Blinders of Self-Deception, as the finger-pointing continues.